Introduction to Computers. This will be the section Data to Information. This is from the outline, in which the students, the work, and they're defining the work, and we'll evaluate it after each unit. We've already gone through the objectives. We've covered what makes a computer system. We've talked a little bit about hardware and software. And today we're going to talk about data. Distinguishing between data and information. So we've already talked about computer systems, and today we're going to talk about bits and bytes, data to information. How computer systems work. We hear the term bits and bytes, and we're going to try to define that. Binary numbers are considered what they refer to as base 2 number system. We have 2 digits. We have a 1 and a 0. This works good in technology because there's lots of ways for computers to be able to represent something as a 1 or a 0. It could be a little spot burnt on a diskette or no spot. Okay, a DVD, you can have a mark burned in there or no mark burned in there. It would represent one or the other. We can have a certain voltage represent a 1 and a no voltage represent a 0. Pulse of light, no pulse of light. So within a computer it represents everything as 1s and 0s. So the word bit actually comes from binary digit. These are binary digits. I'm going to give you a little more of a background on that later on. But if we take a group of bits, for example, this group, that group of bits, if using the ASCII code, would represent, I believe, a capital A. So 8 bits typically gives us a byte of information. Why is that important? Well, 2 basic areas. We usually measure the speed in which bits move through some medium, through a network, which we'll talk more about in the next section. We usually measure that in bits per second. We usually measure storage or memory in how many, let's say, maybe you have a computer with 4 megabytes of memory. So as we move forward, we don't want to confuse those two. So data, all the data in the computer is represented base 2 in 1s and 0s. And then the software can manipulate those to make something out of that. So when we talk about data in this class, I'm referring to the raw facts, the pure thing. The 1s and 0s that represent something, like the letter A. Or 1s and 0s represent a number, like a birth date. Typically represented as a number. We take data and we process it, or we do something to it, and we create information. Information is data organized into something useful. And we're going to give some more examples as I move along. So in terms of technology, most devices take some kind of an input. We process that input using software. We've already learned what software is. And then we get some type of output. It could be as simply as typing in a URL. So we input some type of request for a web page. That's URL. We type that in, like Dell.com. That gets processed, and then we get back the information, web page. Or in this early section we're doing word processing. We'll be doing word processing pretty soon. So you type information up in the word processor, and then you can take that data and organize it into something. So we use software to do that. Typically we save the data. So a good example would be how old you are. We probably save a piece of data that would be maybe your date of birth. And then the computer can process that and produce some output. Your age. A way simplistic example, but a nice one to use. So, data is converted, we use the word processed, into information. Raw facts of data are organized facts, and then that gives us information. For example, in a lot of colleges, or even high school, they don't store your GPA. They take how many quality points you've earned, divided by how many credits you have, and then that'll calculate your GPA, which makes more sense. You keep track of each of those. Every time you take a course, if you take a course and it's 3 credits and you get an A, you get 12 quality points and 3 credits. So for that course, you have a 4.0 GPA. But you don't want to store this because it's dynamic, it changes. But you can store this data. A computer then can process it into that information. I'll talk about that a lot as we move along. Okay? So I'm going to move over here so we can kind of diagram this out. So we take data, raw facts, and we use some kind of a computing device that uses software to process that data and turn it into something useful for us, which I'm going to call information. And all that works on some type of hardware. And that hardware could be, nowadays, almost anything. Anywhere from your automobile to your smartphone to maybe your microwave. Your microwave, you punch in some numbers. There's a little piece of software in there that then runs the microwave at a certain temperature for a certain period of time. Alright. So that is it for this particular section.